in Orlando.
Florida now.
So, anyway, now we're going to hear from Keeya Clayton to talk to us about ILoveEstates.
What am I doing?
The right button.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Keeya Clayton, founder of ILoveEstates. So the promise of the American dream states that if we purchase a home, we'll achieve future wealth, right? And as many of us understand, by the time we burn through a 30-year mortgage, we'll actually pay for more than double our original purchase price. Okay, I'm not sure how you can achieve wealth really that way. Sounds more like a nightmare than an actual dream. So at ILoveEstates, we recognize that the growth in home price outpaces income growth by a lot. And also that nearly half of us are spending more than 30% of our incomes on housing costs every month. Okay, so what this means for us is that some of us will never achieve wealth through home ownership. And many of us won't even be able to afford the nightmare. So my mom's dream was to own a home because it mattered to her how and where I grew up. So in 1986, after a divorce and after years of budgeting and saving and declining loan applications, she bought this beauty. Okay, albeit small and old, it also came with a detached garage, and her plan was to convert it into an apartment and rent it out. Okay, that never happened. And she doesn't live there now, but in recent years I asked her why she never converted the garage. And it turns out that it was a great plan, but she didn't know the first thing about a garage conversion. She didn't know how to start the project, who to call, or who to trust. And besides, she was a single parent with a full-time job, so she was very busy. But mom was onto something, right? If you have a living space in your backyard that you could rent out, that would be game-changing to a family's ability to stabilize their financial security. And that's exactly what ILoveEstates does. And ILoveEstates is actually a real estate development concept that offers newly constructed and fully permitted home sites that consist of 2 residences on one single site. One residence will house your family, and the other residence will be an accessory dwelling unit or a backyard bungalow that you could rent out to earn passive income. So meet Danielle. She's college educated, has a decent job, and she wants to purchase a house. And just like my mom, it matters to her where and how her family grows up. But also just like my mom, she's budget constrained, short on time, and she's nearly priced out of today's real estate market. So for her, an ILoveEstate can provide her a very real opportunity to earn passive income while she's living in place without having to build anything. This is a very turnkey type of situation. She doesn't have to deal with contractors, plans, home project stress, or permitting. The day that she moves into her house with her family, she can start collecting rent from the unit in her backyard. Okay, so let's say that you bought a $455,000 home today in Orlando. Okay, by the time you make your final payment in 2053, you will have spent nearly $1 million. Danielle, on the other hand, spends the same amount for an ILoveEstate. And she decides very smartly to add her rental income that she receives to her monthly mortgage payment. She's done with her mortgage in year 14. And she's achieved about a $300,000, a little bit less than that, but $300,000 discount over what you spent on your home. Okay? That's not all. Danielle's pretty smart, right? So she's going to continue to save and invest that same amount for the next 16 years. So by the time you're paying off your house, she's got an additional potentially $1.2 million in savings and investment. That's real well. That's how we help Danielle to achieve real well pretty quickly. Okay, so this concept is simple home building, simple spec home building. The only difference is we're adding an ADU to the back, and because we're adding an ADU, we virtually have no direct competition right now. We do have plenty of alternatives in the market, however, but we've estimated that our target market is about 190,000 households in Orlando. And we only need to capture about a fraction of 1% of those to make our revenues work. So I have about 20 years of experience in home building and real estate, combined with a ton of passion. So I'm very confident I can kick this activity off. However, I am planning to build a team, an operations team that'll help me to keep my projects running smoothly. Okay, so we at ILoveEstates, we are dedicated to empowering really people like Danielle to accelerate their ability to generate wealth, right? And if I have made you a believer today, please scan the QR code. It'll lead you to my web link, and you can sign up there for updates and any upcoming webinars, informational webinars that I have. Thank you.
So I'll ask the first question of how did you arrive at the number of possible customers in Orlando?
Sure. It is an extrapolation of some Schimberg Center data that comes from the University of Florida. And basically, since I've identified an age group, go back to my customer segment, the number of people in that age group earning that much money who are head of households, that's how I arrived at the 190,000 K.
If you're interested, I work with a company called Mailers Haven, and they are the ones who provide mailing lists. And they can look up a lot of things, like based on home ownership, memberships, organizations, purchase habits. It's scary how much information all these companies have on us. But if you wanted to say, I want houses in a certain zip code of a certain size, and I need the name of the homeowner, I can get that for you. So
that would be great. Yes.
John has a question.
That's a great presentation.
Thank you.
Question, you don't have any traction right now.
No, I have not built a thing yet, but I'm working on that.
Number one question is, what can go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And number two is, how you are going to handle it?
Okay, so what can go wrong? This is construction and real estate. Almost anything can go wrong. It's a lot of moving parts, right? But I'm not the first pony in this race. I mean, I am with adding the ADU, right? But when it comes to the construction animal, so I will quickly adapt and learn how do other people overcome the same thing. But I come from this world, and so I even know that there are developers that will flop on their first deal, and it is completely overcome by all the money that they make in the next one. I don't expect to lose to that proportion, but I do understand that everything is overcomable.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciated your presentation. There's a pain point that I've run into. I've tried to do something similar to this in my own life, but I ran into problems with HOAs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a narrative or a strategy or something like that to deal with that problem?
Yes, I have two. Okay, the first one is to avoid them altogether. I guess. Well, there are properties and segments of town where I could build that they don't have an HOA, or the board is so old that you really can't even contact them to make a complaint. So that's number one. Number two, there are some HOAs that it's a part of the due diligence process. You go and you research what's on the books already. I like that the least because they could probably add it to the books before I can actually build a project. For example, the HOA in my neighborhood, very strict. This isn't on their books yet. They don't have anything about not doing ADUs on people's property. But it doesn't mean they can't add it. The strongest way, though, is to be an advocate. And what I mean by that is to ask the state to empower developers and communities to not be beholden to the HOA regulations. That's what they've done in California. In California, it's a state law that the HOA can't prohibit this.
I appreciate that. That really brings me to my next pain point. I'm on the board of the HOA because I couldn't deal with them just deciding what I could and couldn't do with my own property. Is there something that I can use strategically through your process to get them to change their ideas on what shouldn't be allowed in the communities?
I'm not sure, but I'm not sure, but I think I would imagine that each HOA might be case by case as to what the problem is. They could be NIMBYs, or they could have had a bad experience, or they could think that it just means people are going to Airbnb the thing all the time and they don't want to see that. So I think you would have to address exactly what their specific pain point is of why they don't like it. And after that, there should be plenty of data, and especially looking to the West Coast, to see how many more housing units this is added to the supply so that you can house tenants and also homeowners win also. And by the way, moving in a tenant to earn rental income, that's just one use of it. You can use it to house relatives who are getting on their feet, to house the elderly. You can use it to house college students. You can even move in yourself, depending on where you live. You can even move into the unit yourself and rent out the bigger house to get a bigger rental income. So there's a lot of flexibility of use built into this thing too.
Well, my suggestion is along the same lines. Don't mess with HOAs. You're not going to get anywhere with them. You're spinning your wheels, spending a lot of time. We've got a tremendous problem with available housing in our community to begin with. If you can map out all the areas where this is possible, you're going to do a tremendous thing for the community. You're going to get a lot of support from the city, from the county, from the Salvation Army.
Right.
All these groups are looking for homes for people. This is perfect for them. But don't waste time with the HOAs because they can change at any time. What are you going to do? You've got something in there and say you can't do it anymore, and then you're stuck.
Right, exactly. Thank you.
So, check 1, 2.
Yep.
So my question is, number one, what's the price, the average price range for one of these projects? Are the plans for them kind of standardized? Is it like one plan as you do, or is there like a range that people can pick from? And two, are you like in the launch stages, or are you already doing this?
Okay, so I'm in the launch stage. I guess I'll work backwards. I'm in the launch stage. Oh, the average price, so far my performance, the average price is working at $455 per, and that would include the house and the bungalow. This is spec home building, so I will be actually building the units, and then someone would discover it, not to take a contract like a home builder, like a Pulte or Lennar or something like that, but they would come up in someone's MLS search. So I'd build it, list it, and that's how they would find it. And because of that, yes, I am actually doing the plans, kind of cookie cutter at first. And my reason for keeping it pretty standard is because from a cost perspective, and I'm a startup, I don't want to get into customization and all the different options just yet. I think that's a completely different business model. And I think I can build something pretty accepting to the market without people feeling like they want to be able to customize this and that. It also keeps the cost low. It also keeps the prices low.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're you're getting a house that you'll be able to build one of these on, you're building it, and then you're listing the house and the unit together.
Correct.
Okay.
I want to say that's an excellent idea, I love it.
Thank you.
And just as a thought, maybe as an adjunct to what you're doing, how about if you just put a small mobile home RV in there, take the wheels off, cut the trailer, make it permanent, you're in business next week.
That is true. That is very true, and I think it's an option, and I think when I started the activity, I would like to research more cost-effective materials and ways to bring this to market. But my concern is that, as long as I can build a unit stick-built on somebody's property, I really can't account for the enhanced property value. I'm not so confident I would be able to do that with a manufactured home or mobile home or even a tiny home or something that used to have wheels on it. I know that I can add conditioned square footage to the square footage count of the house if it's stick built block, just like the architectural style and construction style of the original home or primary home.
So what I would look at in this is, what are your bottlenecks? So your bottlenecks, your constraints are, one, you gotta come up with $500,000, or probably 350,000, get it built, sell it for 455, whatever your pricing is, plus the land. But your constraint is also trying to find that land to get that to happen. I would not give up on that, but I think that's a longer play than offering an accessory built home on somebody's existing land. And full-blown construction, just like what you're doing here, would offer two services. Someone that has existing property that they get it cleared with their HOA, it's their responsibility. You come in and build that, you could start turning those very quickly because you solve a lot of pain points. But if you have two avenues, two different channels, so that you can get revenue up and running faster, you may not need investors, you may not need that other stuff to get that to happen by just simply starting smaller and graduating. Because I can see you going in with a developer and having that developer put an accessory dwelling in every single home in a new HOA. And have that be part of the covenants. But in order to get it off the ground faster, I don't know what your overall goal is, but I would just think, let's find those properties that people that want a home, an accessory home on their property. I mean, if the electrical's already there, the water's already there, now it's just adapting.
Yes, that's a very excellent idea, and that's kind of how I started, right? So, or that's a previous iteration of what the business model is going to be, which I used to term the project management model, where I would go to someone's existing home and say, I'll build the ADU for you. This is definitely not that. It's a completely different business model. I believe this is more lucrative, and also it gets into having to customize these ADUs. That's what a lot of people with ADUs are doing in California. They are offering those project management services. Well, kind of the nightmare of that is you got a construction crew in your backyard for 6 to 8 months building this thing. And customers are picky. They change their minds. They have cost overruns, and they blame the contractor, and all these different nightmares. So we'll start off though, kind of a hybrid of the two, is how I'm going to start off before I have these big dollars to do a ground up community, is to actually take control of an existing single family home myself, build the ADU, and then bring that lot to market that way I can do this without causing any pain to any homeowner.
We gotta move on, Rod. We got a question back here. Yep, here.
I see a lot of friction here. Do you sell real estate? Is that your lane, selling real estate, or are you a developer?
I'm a developer. I identify more as a developer because I became an agent so that I could be a developer. I became an agent so that I could, like I said, I've gone through many iterations of this this
Well, being an
startup.
agent is a totally different business. than
Yes,
developer.
exactly, exactly.
You know, I can go to Lowe's and buy sea shed. And I have to go through some permitting and stuff like that. And permitting will get more difficult as I add sewer, water, and electricity.
Right,
But I can do that. I can buy a sea shed and I can build it out and, you know, put drywall up on it and essentially kind of do the same thing. Or I could buy a tiny house, have it delivered in my backyard, and have my kids live in.
mhm,
$20,000 to $80,000, depending on how luxurious that she shed is,
Right.
or my office.
mhm.
I'm just trying to understand what your business is, and I kind of gave you an idea on
Right.
what I would do
Okay,
to accomplish the same thing. And I don't have to go out and get a $300,000, $400,000 loan.
mhm.
I already have what I have. Permitting, everything's just simplified all the way across the road.
So what I would push back and say is that by the time you do those things, so Orange County, Osceola County, all the municipalities are very much aware of the fact that you can do that. So they have specifically in their code what an ADU is and what an ADU isn't.
What does ADU stand for?
Accessory dwelling unit. It's basically the unit, a fixed unit on your property, that is secondary to the
Like
primary
a
unit.
detached garage. Is it
Right, it can be a detached garage, it can also be attached. But there are lots of rules in the code that you follow in order for it to be qualified as an ADU. A lot of those rules will kick out some of the structures that you talked about. Nobody's stopping you from doing that. However, the value is that the county can't come back to you and say, that is not okay, or we're never gonna permit it. Or when you go to sell, the people who are wanting to buy your home, they can't get it past their bank. They can't get it through the the mortgage process because you've not done things the correct way. I am offering someone a value add. You're not getting just a 1,600 square foot home. You're actually getting a 21 square foot home. It's gonna be valued at that. It's gonna be fully
But with
permitted.
the ADU, it's not priced at the same square footage as a main unit.
It's not priced at the exact same square footage because of the land, but it's,
We have to move on, we got time for 2 more questions.
but I have to say, the ADU is not for everybody. So if that's the kind of pushback that you have, then it's not for you. There are lots of other people who would be willing to purchase one and see the value in it.
You can do your own taxes, but I'm guessing most people in this room have a CPA.
You
That's
pay
it.
your own pay, or you go to Publix.
Right.
So I actually built 320 square feet in my backyard for an office. It sucked, right?
Yeah,
And I can tell you it was a virtual nightmare of horse crap related zoning. And the hardest part about it was trying to get septic back to the main unit because it's a half acre, right? That was all. And I did it for 40 grand. Right, I mean, out the door, year and a half, total nightmare, you know, but I can definitely see a service where you go in and you take care of all the horse crud related, because we don't do our own taxes, because we're not psychopaths, right? And I could definitely see a service that would absolutely, you would sell more than you could do. Anybody in this room would be a fool not to, if they had the room, the time, or whatever, to go add $1,000 a month to your income.
right.
So I guess it's this. There's a lot of perils, is all I'm saying, but if you can
Right.
figure out those perils, there's probably a fortune to be made. I've got 2 houses in downtown that I rent out right now. I'd love to add an ADU, but Orange just isn't going to happen. Orange County can't tell me over and over and over again it's not going to happen.
Did they tell you why? Because like I said, there's a
Zoning.
list of codes.
Zoning.
What is it? Zoning?
It's not an R2, not an R3.
Oh, it's not an
residential one. As 99% of all houses are going to be an R1.
Right.
Period. Right? So I would immediately go get a real estate lawyer to go figure this out.
Yeah.
Go figure out the nuts and bolts of that, and then she could probably tell you exactly how this can be done legally.
Right.
So I can tell you right now, it is a freaking nightmare.
Right. And I'm going to be careful about where in zoning because I'm reading the code, so I know where to go and, what
Or
zones
two
to
or
look
three
for.
things worth way more than R1.
Yeah.
As a result, it's going to be more and more expensive. That's
Yeah.
the primary problem.
I'm a rule follower, so.
So I just want to clarify something. So you're looking at not primarily looking at somebody that has a piece of property and you want to build a house with one of these units on the back, versus going in and having to deal with zoning and mortgage problems and everything else you're gonna deal with.
So I am talking about me actually controlling the lot, whether it be a multi-site parcel, it's just like real estate development, right? So I'm going in, I'm controlling the lot, I'm building the primary and the ADU. And that's how I'm building it. There should not be any person residing on site before while I'm actually doing my thing of adding an ADU.
Right, so final question, what can we as a community do for you?
Oh, I've got a long laundry list and I have forgotten. Okay, so you may have noticed that the announcements at iHeart Garages, but I am iHeart Estates. I am in the process of changing my name. So any insights on that would be great. I'm using iHeart Estates. I actually like it, but I haven't done the full process of throwing out that name. But I would just say, it's kind of like teach a man to fish. I know that in order for me to raise money for this concept, especially the ground up portion of the multi-site projects, I need a lot of capital. I would love to get my pitch presentation and even personal branding to a point where when I'm in front of the right people, that I'm delivering something precise and polished and just really, unbeatable.
Well done.
I've been working on that.
Thank you very much. Nicely done. Didn't even need your card. All right, next, we're going to hear from Chris Roda at iMyth. And to kick you off, Chris, I made a mistake when I announced what you were doing, and I didn't issue the correction, so please correct what I had put up.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Eric, and we're going to spend the next 6 or 7 minutes or so describing exactly what we're doing. Hi, my name is Chris Roda, and I am here to represent iMyth, and we are here to deliver happiness anywhere, anytime through your cell phone. Every year, millions of people spend billions of dollars literally traveling to out-of-the-way places just so they can jump into line with hundreds of thousands of other people, all in the pursuit of happiness. Now, the iMyth solution for happiness is developing immersive theme world experiences and delivering them to you anytime, anywhere through your cell phone. Now, happiness is all dependent on the individual. That's why iMyth immersive experiences are varied, and they're dependent on our customers, on what they want and need, and we're going to get that through customer discovery and collaborative interactions. Now, I've been working on this idea for a long time, but it wasn't until 2018 when I participated in a UCF I-Corps program that we developed the first iMyth prototype. And it was a VR immersive location-based experience, and it was a lot of fun. We showed it off to the Disney folks, Universal, Fun Spot. They all said, "Oh, this is great. When can we get version number 2?" Regretfully, 2020 came around, COVID happened, and that second opportunity never arrived. Then fast forward a couple of years, and a chance meeting of Rupert at a cigar bar introduced me to the concept of 1 million cups here in Orlando. And this proved to be a major pivot point in my journey, because that's where I met my mentor, Shan Shanbag. I knew that I needed to change my overall mental perspective radically if I was going to get this thing to actually work. And Shan was just the coach to bring about that mental transformation. He patiently worked with me for months as we hammered out our North Star. And that North Star is the ultimate reason why we're going to business. We came up with delivering happiness anywhere, anytime through your cell phone, with the focus on simplicity and super convenience. I am an instructor at University of Central Florida's Florida Interactive Entertainment Academy, and I've helped out electronic arts with games such as Madden football and NCAA football, and I've also contributed to other films such as Fifth Element, Titanic, and Spider-Man. Joining me is Jeff Worth, who is the director of the Interactive Play Lab. And Jeff literally wrote the book on interactive acting. You can go out and buy it in the bookstore tomorrow. As our advisory board is, many of you know Shan, but for those of you who don't, Shan is personally responsible for dozens of billion-dollar products that are manufactured throughout the world. And helping us out is James Moore, who is a current creative director at Falcon's Treehouse, and he's a former Walt Disney Imagineer. Now, our business model is verified through, it can be repeatable, it can be multiplicatable, and it can have exponential potential for growth through our customer segment. And that is anyone with a cell phone, internet, and pursuing happiness. It's through simplicity and super convenience that we are aiming to convert them into stark raving fans and have them not be able to live without our services. Now, we don't see this as a competitive landscape. We see this as a collaborative landscape. Because I could fill this chart up all day long with amazing companies, but we're going to focus on simplicity and super convenience. And that's going to be a competitive advantage over all these companies, including Apple, who has just announced they're going to come out with a $3,500 display device that you gotta wear on your face. But the growth potential for augmented and virtual reality is astonishing. It's estimated that the entire world market will be about $4.1 trillion by the year 2031. Just the Asian Pacific market alone is expected to be about $1.4 trillion, but here in the United States, it's expected to be about $560 billion, and that's where we're going to start. And the reason for that is that there are approximately 6 billion smartphone users in the world right now, but there are only 10% of them here in the United States. And that's supported by the games and entertainment apps market, which is about $200 billion, I'm sorry, and with the United States having only about, a quarter of that. So we're going to start locally here in the United States, and then we're going global. In order to realize our dreams, we're going to expedite our process into 2 phases. In 2023, we're going to focus on building our team, verifying our business model, and raising funds. We hope to raise $100,000 by September and $1.2 million by January. 2024 launches us into production, where our customers are going to drive what we create, our experts are going to help us create them, and we are going to drive right into the iMyth production cycle. Now, we're just beginning, and so we're looking for other fearless adventurers who wish to join us on this journey, and especially we're looking for collaborators who can help us find our Chief Technology Officer, our Chief Creative Officer, and we're looking for legal assistance, especially with IP establishment and legal and ID identification. So we're expecting to create or raise $100,000 by September and $1.2 million by January. So thank you very much for allowing me to introduce iMyth, where you no longer have to go to Orlando in pursuit of happiness. Orlando comes to you, where you can pursue your happiness anywhere, anytime, as you desire. Now, before we go into questions, I'd like to invite Shan up here to share a few insights on what I just presented to you. Oh, and I just realized that my QR code is on the fritz, but I do know that this cell phone number is up and working, so if you want to get in contact, please feel free to drop me a line.
Thank you very much. That's fantastic. This is such a simple concept when you really think about it. There's 6 billion cell phones are there, smartphone all over the globe. 8 billion people wish they could be in Orlando. They can't. We're trying to help them meet their dream as soon as possible. What we are looking for is basically anybody can join this journey who would like to talk to you. We need a lot of help. We're trying to build a team. Okay? And if you can, think for a minute. Anything can go wrong. But we know exactly where we want to go. We know our destination, very, very clear. We know how to go there. And we have an amazing team. You can turn the team side. You have what? Jeff, where is Jeff? He's the guy in the back there. Yeah. He has done it. You know, I want Chris to show how we got this started.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Jan. Yeah, ultimately, where this started was when we were working on an attraction that some of you may have seen. A magical thing happened. We were going through a test show, and then the show started off as expected. The turtle came out, started talking to everybody, noticed a little boy in the corner. He says, "Hey, little squirt, what's your name?" Boy reached up, "Tommy." "Oh, terrific, Tommy. Where's your parental unit?" "Mom's back there." He says, "Oh, righteous." The show went on exactly as expected. We thought this was another fantastic show.
Where's your mic up?
Oh, thank you very much. Except that after the show, we find out that Tommy's still there and his mother's in tears. We go over and we talk to her. We say, "Ma'am, is there anything that we can do? Anything we can do to help?" She says, "Can I see your supervisor, please?" We said, "Oh no, what did we do this time?" So our producer comes over and she talks to him. Later, we find out that Tommy is autistic, and that was his first conversation. And it was that time that I realized that these immersive experiences have power, and they are the key to happiness, and we can bring happiness to the entire world. And so this is one of the reasons why that is part of my North Star for being involved in this, is to bring happiness to the world.
First question.
Yes.
So Chris, I was about to ask exactly what Sean asked you, because I believe that you need to start your presentation just like that, because you said that you guys deliver happiness. Happiness is not something that is equal to everybody, but you didn't say how. And then Sean just told you, tell them about your story. Yeah, now I'm seeing how you deliver happiness. So the characters, or whatever you present on the screen, are interactive. They talk to you, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And how do you assure that this will create happiness on me?
Well, thank you for asking, because it's all about interacting. Interactors are participants of theme worlds, and their sole job is to guarantee a rewarding experience through the participants. And that's where Jeff comes in. Jeff has written the book on interactive acting, and that's exactly what an interactor does, is they guarantee that everyone has a rewarding time.
So, Rod, and
I think you're onto a gold mine. I really like the idea. A couple challenges that I saw. What is this compared to? Is it Pokemon Go? Or we need a high-level concept that, because the whole first part of the presentation, I'm sitting here trying to think, okay, is it augmented reality? Is it, what are you doing that is your whole model?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't get that through the whole presentation. I still don't know.
Okay.
The second thing is, I think Peter is right. The story that you told is what you start with, because it's all about getting the hook, and you didn't set the hook at all in the presentation. And so that would set the hook, and it would make me think through the whole presentation. But I love the concept, and I think your guys' credibility is off the charts. So I think you've got a gold mine, I think you'll get the money, but you need to just alter those two things.
Thank you very much for your input. Thank you very much. And that is an awesome observation. And yeah, Niantic is one of those companies that I mentioned before. Pokemon Go is definitely developed as a kind of a social app and something to go on. And we are developing immersive experiences. We're
So-
focused on narrative and story.
So, iMyth is Pokemon Go for the theme park and happiness throughout the world instead of playing a game. You know, something, just a high-level concept that gets us right away.
Right, right. iMyth actually is a pun and is short for immersive in-world experiences. And so that's where the name iMyth comes from, the
Sure,
contraction of that.
but I don't know that. And so as a listener, I need something super clear, super simple that's gonna adapt that.
Of course.
Go on.
Yeah, thank you for your
You
observations.
bet.
Chris,
Yes.
great presentation. I mean, you've got something here with the horns. You really do. My question is, you're going for seed capital apparently, right?
Yes.
Okay, do you have any idea when you're gonna go public so we can all buy in?
Well, as soon as we can.
It sounds like a politician.
That's what,
So specifically execution, this is a lot of great idea. I can tell you that I want to fly 200 years ago. That doesn't make it happen. Who's the engineer on this? Who understands cloud computing? Who understands the burn rate, AWS? Who understands how hard augmented reality is? Who understands all those nuts and bolts? I've written code for Disney, NASA, for 25 years. The execution on this, who is that person?
Well, we are still on the lookout and would appreciate any kind of assistance identifying a chief technology officer. I myself have a lot of experience, especially within the creation of augmented reality, virtual reality, and the production of creating the actual content and the executable. However, I'm going to be focusing mostly on the day-to-day interactions of conducting the business, and so that's why I'm looking right now for collaborative input with the chief technological officer. Yeah.
Can I just follow up on that?
Yeah.
That's kind of related. So what's in the next horizon as far as the next iteration of features for your prototype, where you're going to start to validate or test?
Mr. Did you want to answer that?
The POC is important. Proof of concept is going to be the next
We will be
step.
focusing on customer discovery. Okay? Customer is going to tell us. That's where we are going to focus on as soon as possible. And based upon that, and customer will help us build the stuff. That's where our focus is going to be. We'll make sure our business model is extremely sound, highest priority, and we'll go slowly, but we want to go in the right direction. That's the key. So it will take some time, but we know exactly where we want to go. We're going for happiness. Customer trust is going to make it.
Question back here.
Hi, I'm curious, so do you have an application process for this, or people who are interested, say like what kind of experience they would want to have, and you create something for them, or you have like preset interactive experiences that you give out on your platform and you say anyone who's interested to participate, just pick what we already have?
Yeah, ultimately, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. Initially, it will be decided experiences that we understand and create through customer discoveries, finding out where the most of it. Ultimately, I have a dream that ultimately any kind of media resource that has been created or could be created is available to translate into an immersive experience. However, that's down the road. We've got to start to walk before we can run first. But yeah, ultimately it'll be controlled through customer discovery. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I was just curious. There's a few things. I mean, first off, my background is in cybersecurity, and I've always been very concerned about interactive apps because of the level of access they have to your phones and devices and networks and things of that nature. What kind of APIs, I don't know if you need to know this, but what kind of APIs do you have in place to prevent that kind of exploitation?
At this moment in time, I don't have any to exactly answer your question. I know exactly what you're getting to, and at this moment in time, that we don't have any. And so that is one of the responsibilities of working with the chief technology officer is to discover those.
Have you done a
pre-mortem, like kind of figure out what can go wrong? Let's say in 2 years, you're gone, you're out of business, what happens? And then what risk mitigation have you put in place for something like that?
As far as risk mitigation is concerned, of course, anything can happen, of course, along the way.
What's the most likely thing that's gonna put you out of business in 3 years? Or
Well,
2 years?
You know, ultimately, anything can happen. And ultimately, we know where we're objective. We're bringing happiness to the world. But we're doing it in order to stay simple and super convenient. And using immersive experiences, we're going to continue pushing and pursuing this in order to bring that happiness to the rest of the world. And we're going to roll those punches. I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm going to continue doing it. Yeah.
All right, I have 2 questions for you. Currently actually a Disney executive in tech.
Oh, fantastic.
And, yeah, so I had my previous team was working on all our AI ML projects and was doing virtual reality for one of our attractions. Are you going to focus on one experience at a time? Because one, the content writing just for that attraction and just for the tech took probably about 6 to 8 months.
Yes.
Right? With a team of folks. So are you going to focus on one experience at a time? And then the second part of my question is, do you have a model where you're actually going to go to Disney and license these characters? And is that a part of your expense that you have accounted for?
Yeah, that is definitely in the objective, and you're right. This stuff does take time. Some people were asking why the $1.2 million. Well, this costs money and time, and we do have to hire a team in order to execute that. And I'm aware of the production costs. And you're absolutely right. Initially, we're starting off with one production at a time. And that's part of the iMyth production cycle. When we release content, we support that content. Oh, yes, I do, actually, thank you. Well, the iMyth development content is we release the content, support the content, but at the same time, we're developing content and pursuing research and development in order to keep pushing the technology forward. Because where we want to take this is obviously a heavy research and development opportunity. And it's something that we have to be aware and continually focus forward and continually investing in. Yeah.
That's what we are trying to do. One thing I can guarantee, we don't have to worry about distribution at all. There are 6 billion smartphones in the pocket right now, or purses. But we don't have to spend a penny. We don't have to spend a penny on marketing. It's only word of mouth. Period. That's it. Our challenge is making sure people can't live without it. Not like or love, without it. That's the hook. And the word of mouth will spread like wildfire. And I can see it within a year or two. Disney or Apple are stupid if they don't make it happen. They should buy us out. As simple as that. They can do it. Anybody can do it. There's 4.1 trillion opportunity there. $4.1 trillion opportunity. There's about 5th largest economy in the world. Think for a minute. There are thousands of startups can participate in this. We don't want to compete. We want to collaborate. Like Peter Thiel said, he knows a little bit about startups. He's the one who put $500,000 in Mark Zuckerberg. Remember that, okay? He knows what. So we don't worry about competition. If we worry about competition, we don't want to make it. We want to collaborate. We want to help as many people as possible. Thank you.
Then I've got a question that kind of piggybacks off of that. And I'm not a big fan of exits. I think companies should try to last for a while. But if you sell in 5 years, what are you selling? Are you selling the content that you have created? Are you selling the talent that makes this, and that's what people are actually hiring you for? Or are you selling maybe the engine that you built in order to make the content? What have you sold in 5 years?
I imagine that could definitely depend on what the consumer who's purchasing is interested.
No, I'm talking about the Disney buys you out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
What have they bought? The content, the people, or the engines?
Well, the IP is, if there's any original content, of course, they'd be purchasing the original IP. However, if it's pre-existing IP, as imagined, then they would have access or the they would be obtaining the rights to the IP that we would have obtained. And of course, there is the engine, there is the technology, and anything that we put forth in order to get this engine up and going, yeah, they would have access to.
So you could work with somebody like Disney, use their IP, put it in through your process, and then license, or not license it, but sell it back to them. They've hired you for work for hire.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be, that's why we're collaborating and not necessarily competing.
Okay, great. Bob?
What is your happiness?
I am a storyteller. I am a storyteller. I've been telling stories my entire life. It's what makes me happy. It's what gives me inspiration, is to give inspiration to other folks, to make them feel good, to see an immersive experience and to see their eyes light up when they realize, holy moly, this is real. To see that in their eyes is just pure magic. To go into a theater that people have just seen a film that we've just created, and to see your name up there, and to have those folks going home realizing, wow, that was a great experience. That's to me, that's living. Yeah, that's what makes me happy.
All right, so final question is, what can we as a community do for you?
Okay, we're looking for teammates. We are looking for help in the both in our technology and creative and legal representation, and we're looking to raise $100,000 by September and $1.2 million by January. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. All right. Bob, you had something you wanted to do real quick.
Yeah, my name's Bob Wickton. I'm local business maestro, social media marketing. Down the hall in a quiet spot, I'll give everybody 1 minute, say who they are, what they do, and I'll put links so you all get backlinks that'll help your SEO. So if you're interested.
For videos, right?
Yeah, just a little video of, it's like an elevator pitch. I'm giving you a minute instead of 30 seconds. I'm a nice guy.
Okay, great. All right, so remember, we are not meeting next week. It is July 5th. Everybody's going to have fireworks hangovers, so you will not be here. So if you show up, no one's going to be here. The following week, I will be gone, and so somebody else will be driving the train. So that means that, don't forget to download the chat. There wasn't a chat. There's really nothing to download. Join us on meetup.com. Make sure you connect with somebody that you met here today, and I will see you all. You will see each other in 335 hours. I will see you all in 503 hours. So have a good week. Have a safe holiday. Keep all your fingers. Thank you.
You actually calculate those numbers?
Before.
Oh, of course.
I have something I would very much like your help with.
So, like a what?
What?